the strides that we've made, particularly in the last probably 4 years, we wouldn't have been able to do without that structure.
David Batch and Premier Education. Premier Education are the UK's #1 provider of sport and physical activity to primary schools.
I would use what I would now call as an excuse. Every single person's got to have a one-to-one every month.
Are you a taskmaster with a heart?
In this podcast, David shares how he's built this business and the most important management systems that you can put in place, and also what it takes to be a leader.
Somebody can say, and I've had this, I've got too much to do. And the answer is, well, you can't have too much to do because we're only asking you to do 3 things a day. And I think that's really key. The power of time and using it effectively is critical.
Pay attention to his special ingredients of management for the perfect balance to get everybody performing. Let's do this.
You've painted a picture of getting the rules of the game established, and the reality is that very few businesses have got the rules of the game established. Is that how you show that you care about your team, by encouraging them to focus on the strengths?
I wouldn't say that's how I show that, but we do that.
How do you show that you care about them?
So a couple of things. Firstly, we've set across the business, every single person's got to have a one-to-one every month. Virtually everybody will have a weekly update with their line manager, but everyone's got to have a proper documented one-to-one where, as much as possible, you try and step away from the operational things because they should be picked up and are picked up elsewhere. And it becomes a little bit more about them and what's your challenge and how are you finding it and what can I do to help you? What support do you need from me in the next 30 days? What are you doing at the moment on your own personal development? How's that going? Is your plan, because we plan for all of that as well, is that all up to date? Are we on the right journey? Are you on the right journey? That's part of it. But one of the biggest things that I found is, and this won't come as a surprise to anyone in Action Coach, default diary.
Right.
So,
do you love the default diary?
Yeah, I can tell you what I'm doing in 2 years' time on a Wednesday morning at 9:30 without even looking. I don't know the detail of that, but I know what I'm doing. And I default people every day for an hour in one of my focus hours. And sometimes I might have 10 minutes. Sometimes I might have more. But what I found is my previous, before we started introducing the how of what we do now, what I found originally was I would use what I would now call as an excuse of my door's always open.
Why did you call that an excuse?
I didn't at the time, but now I think it is an excuse for not making time.
Right.
So my door's always open to me, which it was people coming up, they could come and chat and sort out an issue or whatever. But what I really found myself doing is trying to, half the time, get them out the door as quick as I could so I can finish off what I'm doing. So really, I didn't give them time. I was paying a lip service, but not really listening. And through this one-to-one process and through my default diary, I have an hour a day, and all of the one-to-ones fit in that same hour, where I'm at their kind of beck and call. That's their time. And I don't know who that's going to be on a daily, kind of weekly basis, or sometimes even a daily basis. But if somebody says, I've got an issue, I need to talk to you, I can straight away say, great, book it in for 3 o'clock one day this week, when I'm all ears.
As soon as you said making time, that was a beautiful comment. Is that how you show you care now? You make time for people?
See, I don't the rest of the time. And this is... that would probably be not something that person you asked me about earlier in my head would say, because part of that being able to make time for an hour a day for a particular person or particular issue with a person is that I don't the rest of the time waste it by interruptions. So some people would view it as, if they ask me a question, can I talk to you about this? Me saying, 3:00 Tuesday, would feel that as really cold. And you could argue it is. I would see it as, no, I've got an hour with you now. You can do what you like.
Yeah. If people know it in advance, I suppose, they know they've got it, and you've carved that time out for them anyway. How has this process of dealing with people, as you've put it, how has that changed you?
It's made me think a bit more long term about not just the individuals, but the work that they're doing. It's made me work with them on planning a lot further in advance. Again, I think when I didn't have this time, it became very zigzag. Solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem. Whereas now it becomes much more just step back. What do we want to get to? Right, let's work out how. And it might take a month, 3 months, 3 years, but that's fine. As long as we know we're working on it and we've got milestones to check. Whereas before I was involved in this process, and when I was a bit younger as well, I felt it was much more reactive.
You said before, you were involved in that. If you could go back to your younger self, and I don't know what age I'm saying when I say that, if you could go back to any point, wherever you're thinking, and give yourself some advice, your younger self, what would the advice be?
I could give it. I'm not sure whether a younger person would take it, but it is most definitely understanding the value of time.
How would you communicate that to your younger self so that you had the best chance of taking it?
Well, I try with my kids. I've got 3 teenage boys.
How old are they?
Well, actually, 21 this year, so slightly older. 21, 18, coming up 19, 16.
21, 19 and 16, and they're all supporting different football teams, yeah?
Yeah.
So your weekends are action-packed.
Yeah, I mean, they one of them lives away now,
Right.
but, I've had, 3 boys under the age of 5, and as they grow up, I've got a little daughter as well who's a bit younger, but...
How old's your daughter?
She's 12. She's coming up 13. Oh, no, she's coming up 12 this year, this next week, actually. So there's a bit of a gap there, but I do find myself trying to communicate that to younger people, in particular my boys, who are the youngest people I deal with.
What is it that what's the advice then?
Well, how I've tried to frame it to them.
But imagine if your boys listen to this and you're speaking to yourself now. Imagine you could go back to your younger self and give yourself some younger advice. Let your boys have a listen to this. What would the advice be? Every day, get 3 things done and do them before you do anything else. And that came off very easily for me because that's how I work now. That's how we try and get everybody to work. But I've said exactly that with my, at the time, 19-year-old. A year or so ago. And he actually even commented, he took pride actually coming back the next day. Dad, I got this done today. And it might have been go to the gym. That's fine. Do it first. Just get it done. How did you feel when he came back and said that?
I was actually pleased for him because I thought you're going to have so much more time on your hands now.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to achieve much more in exactly the same time everybody else has got, including you yesterday. And I think that's really key. The power of time and using it effectively is critical.
Good old Brian Tracy. You remember the book Eat That Frog?
Do you know what? Yeah, absolutely. I nearly said that. I nearly said that. Eat the frog.
Man.
Yeah.
It really gets you into doing that thing first. I mean, you're up there with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says this. You write down the 5 most important things that you've got to get done today, and those 5 things, they've got to get done. And what you're saying, the great David Batch, 3 most important things. You do them as early as you can in the day.
that's a habit in our business now. So every single person in our business reports. That's the wrong word. Shares.
Proudly shares.
I would hope so. Yeah, shares the 3 key things that they're going to get done that day after they've commented, hopefully, and being proud of the 3 key things they got done yesterday. And if there's any issues off the back of that. And that all report, they all share that in a planned meeting in their team. And then the team leader shares that in a wider senior leadership team meeting, so that all of us at any point can identify what the blocker is in the business, or what the knock-on effect of something is in the business that hasn't been done. And it's all based on the same principle. 3 things. We actually operate another, the Vern Harnish thing. Yeah. It's Vern Harnish. He's running with gazelles. We've completely stolen that process.
The daily huddle, the running of the day.
The daily huddle, weekly line, rhythm of the business. What we've also done is integrated a system called Legom. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a Swedish word. I saw it, heard about it at an HR conference about 3-4 years ago. And my understanding is Legom means not too much, not too little. So this presenter from another business talked about how they do it. What we decided to do was say, right, you got 3 focus hours a day. And ours happened to be 9:30 to 10:30, 11 till 12, and 1 till 2. There are 3 focus hours. And in those focus hours, emails off, phones off, don't go talking to other people. Get them 3 things done. You plan to do them, get them done in that time. People's personal bonuses are linked to those things normally, so that's your that's your bonus time. We call it focus time. That's your focus time. That's interspersed with collaboration time. So an hour a day of collaboration, and that's when your daily huddles, your lion, returning emails, returning calls, making calls. All that can go on. And if you've got a question that comes up in your focus time, great, write it down. Ask that question in collab. There'll be either a huddle, there'll be the lion, there'll be something going on when you can ask that question. There'll be a forum to do it.
Yeah. Or you one-to-one.
Or you one-to-one, whatever it happens to be. There'll be a forum. And all your meetings that you planned are in your collaboration time.
What time are your focus hours?
9:30 till 10:30. So prior to that, we have 9 till 9:30 is collaboration. So that's when people get in the office, look at the emails, get a cup of tea, talk. Brilliant. 9:30, 10:30. Then we have half an hour of what we call playtime, like school. We're in the education business.
Bit of pool, bit of table
tennis. Yeah, we've got all that in the office, whatever. Often you find people actually collaborating in that time. Another hour focus. So by 12 o'clock, out of the 3 things, eat that frog, 2 of them are done. Another hour collaboration. Lunch, where we try and get everybody on lunch at the same time. Another focus hour in the afternoon.
Like 2 till 3 type thing.
Yeah. And then finish it with collaboration, another break time. And I found that the more people stick to that, including me, and I say I've been in management meetings before and said I've got to start with an apology because I was firing off Teams messages during focus time because it suited me. And the worst thing is when I do that, people answer it.
Because it's you.
Because it's me. So I'm wasting their time.
Distracting.
I'm wasting their time. I'm taking their time away from the projects that on the other hand, I'm saying, where's this project? It's completely counterproductive. So the discipline of saying, that's my schedule, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to do, and it's brilliant for managing staff as well because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it doesn't happen with us, it does happen. But it's brilliant because somebody can say, and I've had this, I just need more resources. I need more people to come and get so-and-so done. Or I've got too much to do.
Yeah.
And the answer is, well, you can't have too much to do because we're only asking you to do things a day, 3 hours a day. Now, if you say to me, because of that 3 hours, I'm going to move the deadline back, then that's either acceptable over a period of time or it's not. And if it's not, then I've got a resource issue.
Is this where your demanding nature comes in?
Possibly.
You brought up that phrase, not me.
Yeah. Possibly. I see things like that quite black and white. And I've never had an issue since we've been operating this program where someone's come in, too much work in a team, too much work individually, that answer's gone back. And then the next question is, are you operating Legom effectively? And the answer is always no.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
And they say, right,
Legom.
do that. Let's have the conversation next week. Different answer.
Not too much, not too little. How much would you say that's impacted your own philosophy?
Massively. I think the strides that we've made, particularly in the last probably 4 years, we wouldn't have been able to do without that structure. It changes and frames expectations. So these are details, but this gives you an example. We used to have on a Monday someone say, I'm going to do this. Let's say the management accounts from our finance team.
Yeah.
And then on the Tuesday, that didn't get done, the management accounts. So we'd say, well, what's the issue? Well, it's not a 1 hour job. Okay, we'll put it in as a 1 out of 5. How many hours is it? Was it 5 out? Okay, 1 out of 5 then on Monday. Tuesday's 2 out of 5. That's one of my tasks. 3rd hour, 4th hour, 5th hour over the week. That's fine. And it changes expectations, not just of me as the manager, kind of knowing what not putting pressure on, actually being less demanding, if anything. It changes their expectation because staff don't go home then with the headache hanging over them of, I haven't finished the management accounts. They go home with a big tick, I've done 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
And tomorrow they're going with another big tick.
Are you a taskmaster with a heart? I mean, that's what's coming out, but I don't know if it's true.
Well, that's interesting. I would say no.
Right.
I would say that's logic.
Right. Well, so come on then. You have to describe yourself.
Well, I would say to me that's logical. Why would you not want to go home with a big tick? What we're talking about, chunking down, and that's all it is, really. But if
so, you're the man who serves out big ticks.
Well, actually, no. They're the people who serve their own big tick because they're the ones who come in and tell us, yeah, I've got it done.
So your team serve you ticks?
Yeah. But those ticks, I think, are more important to them than they are to me because they can go home saying, I've got my 3 things done.
After all this, and your team are going to listen to this, please, give me a phone call, send me a text, let me know the impact that this has on them, because I think it's going to have a really, really strong positive impact on them. You also mentioned that you moved out of home when you were 15 years old. What was that like?
I mean, I didn't go too far, but I never went home since, not in terms of lived back at home. Yeah. That was really difficult. I mean, it's different these days when they take kids away at kind of young age and the way they look after them.
That's because you were really good at football.
Well, yeah, compared to some, better than some, nowhere near as good as others. But nowadays, it's done with much more thought and care. I would liken it actually as going in the army.
Right. So what it felt like? Or looking back at it?
100%, yeah. Now there was the stuff we would do then. No, I wasn't. Well, scared of not doing it. Yeah. So there wasn't a fear of being away from home. That wasn't actually the issue. That wasn't great, but it wasn't the issue. The issue was the fear was not doing it. If they said run round this pitch 200 times, you'd run round the pitch 200 times. you wouldn't question why would I do this, and you certainly wouldn't bring it up. You just get it done.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that we did football-wise then, would be looked at as literally army training type thing. And what I do think is that did and does bring a level of kind of, I suppose, mental tough. They used to talk about it all the time, mental toughness. Don't want just footballers. I want people who are mentally tough.
What are some of your memories back there of how they helped you form mental toughness?
Standards. Standards of punctuality, presentation.
Are you mentally tough?
I think other people probably would say that I've had a few things in work, business, that have gone against us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been mentally resilient, definitely. But I think that's probably most people who've been in business for a number of years would say the same thing, and I think they are.
It's one
I've
of those
seen a lot of
things,
people that aren't.
If you go looking for it, you can find evidence of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen a lot of people who aren't as mentally resilient and would see what I would consider quite small setbacks as,
I'm
business
feeling the
threatening.
vibe of compassion actually coming out of you, and understanding and empathy and care, and setting some high standards and pushing people, with the 3 focus hours. It's beautiful. But I'm definitely seeing that whole compassionate side in you.
I'm not sure that people would say that.
Yeah, well,
I definitely don't think that would be the first kind of.
why am I seeing it then?
Look, I think probably the motive behind some of the, let's call them rules, rules, standards, defaults, whatever they are. I think the motive behind them is to make everyone's life better. Reinforcing, don't contact James during focus hour. You could see that as a don't,
black and white.
Yeah. But actually, that's because then you're disrupting him, and he's likely then to do it back, send you an email back, which disrupts you. So the actual end game is that everybody's better off.
You've painted a picture of getting the rules of the game established. And the reality is that very few businesses have got the rules of the game established. Now, you've got them written down. You've got them agreed company-wide. During these times, this is focus hours. This is collaboration, collab, as you were saying it. I think there's plenty of inspiration for other leaders here, something to be proud of in terms of what you developed.
Well, Roger's been, our business coach, has been instrumental in working with us on that. And I suppose the demanding, you used the word demanding. When I first heard about Legom, I went in the next day and said, right, we're going to be doing this. I'd like to give it a trial.
That sounds like a high D.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And I picked one department, marketing team, pulled them all in, said, this is what I've seen yesterday. I think it'll make your job. And the reason I picked them was because at the time, I thought they were the ones who were having the most issues.
Right.
And I said, I want you to work with me for a month on it, develop it, change a bit. They changed the spelling of it as well.
How do they spell it?
Focus with a K. I don't know why they wanted to make it more Swedish. I don't even know.
It's memorable though.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we played around with the times a little bit. We did it over a month.
It's like cool with a K.
Yeah. It's just it's a bit different. And they but when I talked to them about what I'd heard the previous day and said, look, let's give it a go. Let's give it a trial. Will you? I think this might be the benefit. Can we give it a go? The marketing manager at the time said, great, when do you want to start this? And I can remember looking at them like quizzical. Well, now. Obviously now. Do it straight away. And they did. And they did it straight away, and they worked with us, and it kind of in the first month. That was our pilot. Then we moved it to 2 departments, did it across 2 departments, and then we eventually brought it company wide. But like I said, it's and it still evolves sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, by
How many people have you got in the business now?
there's 50 people work at HQ,
Right.
and then we've got over 1,000 people out in schools every day. They work through our franchise network, so it's a bit different. But interestingly, and this is quite a task for us, but I've shared this kind of information about our business before, how we operate.
Yeah.
And often recipients have said, "Oh, I'm going to take that bit away, that's quite good," and so on and so forth. It's not, as I said, it's nothing new. It's 2 things that we merged together. But the real key is, can we get our franchise network to do it? Because then we're influencing 40, 50 other businesses who aren't in our building. And over the last kind of 16 months, we started to do that. And that's testament to our team who are now putting that in. And they're doing it because they see the benefits of it working in our place. We asked all of our senior leadership team in one of their one-to-ones a couple of months ago. And in turn, they asked their team members the same question. What would you do if you left and they didn't do this? Went to another organisation. And all of them said, I would either implement it or recommend it was implemented.
Wow.
So that gives us a little bit of an endorsement of, certainly when we first started doing it, we had 1 or 2 thinking, micromanagement and words like that. But it's not, it's micro communication.
So, look, you moved from playing and managing football to building a franchise business, yeah? Why did you do that?
I worked in football and fell out with the manager. So wasn't offered a new contract. The board offered me one, but the manager didn't, but fell out. And at that point, there was not a lot else I could do other than what our core products are. So I started doing that straight away. And we had 3 people who worked that summer with me running. Well, we tried to set up 60 holiday camps, and I think we ran with about 32 or 40, something like that. And out of the 3, 2 of them were my former players. And in the September, they set up franchises, all 3, and 2 of them still with us.
Right.
Yeah, and one of them's the biggest in the network.
When was it? When did you set up?
99.
So you've been going 24 years, almost 25 years.
25 next year, yeah.
What skills did you take from sport that you've used throughout the entire journey in building this successful business?
I think I was going to use the term, I think there's lots of parallels, but I don't even think they're parallel. I think they're the same skills.
Right.
I think that, they are, talking about a team.
Yeah.
It is, what do you want to do? What's your strategy?
Yeah.
How are we going to do it? Tactics. Managing the people through that process. And the result is the mirror of what you do every day. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's no different.
People. Sport.
Yeah.
Business.
It's the same process.
Have you ever looked in the mirror? The result is the mirror of what you do every day. Have you ever looked in the mirror and not liked the result?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time, this morning?
Yeah, well, yeah, on the way down. I've had a conversation today with one of the team members who've got an issue where, funny enough, their Legom has probably not been implemented as well as what it could be. Now, in fairness, they've got a few new team members, and that's causing some of the people there 1 or 2 issues. I don't like that. I take no pride at all in a couple of team members having too much work to do. But the good thing is there's a solution. and it's just getting back on the rail.
Managing the people through, as you said it before.
Yes, if you go on a diet or a fitness regime, and you are doing it religiously and it's working, and then you drop off it because you go on holiday and then don't go back in the gym for a month, then guess what? There's going to be different results. It's just a question of getting back on it, and it's the same thing. It's habit, and there's lots of books about that. The more you do it, the easier you find it.
Yeah, look, you have developed a successful franchise business because you're winning the awards. You're up against the big dogs, McDonald's and Domino's Pizzas. They're franchise businesses, and you're constantly winning awards in that industry. What are the biggest challenges that you've been through in that 25 years, and how did you overcome them?
Well, COVID was, of course, one of them, and I'm sure lots of people have talked about that kind of challenge. And one of the biggest lessons, I suppose, from that was automation, technology, and communication.
So give us the key lesson in each one: automation, technology, communication.
Well, automation was we've got to make it as easy as possible for customers or our franchises or whatever it is to make it, to interact with them in a way that means we don't have to roll their hand throughout the whole process. So everybody's quite aware of that kind of customer journey.
That's where automation and technology are using.
Often they'll interact. Technology, because just simple things like meetings, the daily huddles that we talk about used to happen in my office. Yeah. They've got better now. They don't, because wherever you are in the world, I'll jump on a huddle from wherever I am if I'm on holiday somewhere, because I like to keep in touch. In 15 minutes, I know everything I need to know. So that's really useful, but it's really useful for everybody, because the way that we do that now, you're not coming in and just saying three things. You've already had to go in and put it into a particular document that we've all got access to. So it makes everybody a bit more prepared.
And accountable.
And accountable, 100%. It's very, very accountable. That's...
I wrote a couple of words down earlier on, when you were talking about honesty and charisma, but underneath that, my notes, I've got support and accountability.
Yeah.
So you want to support people, but you want people to be accountable at the
100%.
same time. Can you do one without the other?
I don't think... That's a really good question. I would say the support comes first, because if they haven't got that support, they can't be accountable.
Feeling supported. People have got to feel supported, yeah?
I think feeling, and I think there's a practical element to it as well. So
is that through your one-to-ones for you?
Yeah, through what I mean by the practical element is I can't sit in a one-to-one, have a conversation with somebody and nod my head and be empathetic about somebody who, for instance, hasn't simply got the resource to achieve what the target is. That's where I've got to be accountable.
Right.
Because I've got to say, I need to solve that issue. So it is feeling it, but it's also actually actions behind that as well. Showing that you support by giving them the resource they need, if they need it. And part of it is challenging to see whether that is a time thing or, as we said. The accountability, we have that on a daily, weekly, monthly, 90-day cycle for everybody.
How does that turn up, that accountability? Because a lot of businesses haven't got that systemic accountability. Is it related to these three things every day?
Yeah.
Is that where it starts, or is it different for the quarter?
That's where it starts. And remember, we're now doing this with our franchises, and accountability, team accountability, is probably the biggest expression we hear back from them when we're talking to them about it. The 40 odd business owners who are franchisees.
How did they feel about it?
Relieved.
Really? What, the relief that they've got a system
Control.
that they can increase accountability in their business?
They feel more in control. their issues. And by the way, that would be the same for us. That was ours as well. And now we're just kind of sharing that knowledge with them for obvious reasons. They're our franchises. They're the same. It's the same set of problems in the same order. That they feel that all of this is going on. They're guys that are running businesses. The top one will do, pushing 3 million, right down to somebody who started 6 months ago. Not even that, 3 months ago. Now they've all got the same issues, and that one of the biggest issue for a small business and a small business owner is they've got to do everything, and that's an issue because they've got to be operational, strategic, execute things properly, and giving that away, but knowing how to give it away. Everyone wants to give it away. And this is the biggest thing I've found about this process that we've gone through. Everybody wants and understands that you have to delegate things. Wouldn't it be nice to have people working autonomously and driving the business for you and leveraging your time? Everybody understands that. Everyone gets that. How you do it is a different kettle of fish. And that's what we've been working with our franchises on because of our experiences, thanks to Roger, Vern Harnish, Legom, all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing they come back with is that I've now got staff who are accountable. Now, you're right, from we're a bit further on in that process. On a daily basis, habits, people come in and say, well, the first question on any huddle, what didn't get done yesterday?
Really?
Yeah. What didn't get done? And one person might say, I didn't get so and so done. Okay. What's the issue? Sometimes it's just out of interest. Why do you go with that question first? Because it's kind of a mop up of yesterday.
Right.
And
is there any informalities before that point?
Yeah. I mean, there'll be people joining the call.
Yeah.
We start at a certain time, but some people join a minute, 2 minutes before.
And Tottenham have lost yesterday. Or
Yeah.
A little bit of that first.
But only up until the time we start the meeting.
Oh, right. I love that rule.
Yeah.
So the meeting starts at 9. You can join 3 or 4 minutes early. Banter can go first.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. We're on.
It's an interesting point, though. What didn't get done yesterday? Because my experience of coaching coaches and thousands of businesses, people don't often report the stuff that doesn't get done. They'll tell you what did get done, or they'll tell you the good stuff, just not always the bad stuff.
The order of the meeting is what didn't get done, because the next question off that, if there is something, is what is the issue? Do we need to know about it? And often it might not be. There might not be an issue.
It might just be, I need to get my finger out.
I just didn't get it done on time, or I underestimated the time. Now, of course, if that happens again a few times, then that's another conversation. But
it means people learn fast, though, that.
Yeah, I think so.
Because underestimating time is one of the biggest sort of things that happen.
Yeah. And if somebody's doing it, and we did have, so we came up with a solution, which was that, 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5. And that kind of helped solve that. Because their expectation of what they were going to do in that 1 hour was way beyond what was possible.
But even me turning up to a meeting every day for 15 minutes and no, I didn't get this done because I underestimated the time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I've done that 3 or 4 times, I'm starting to change the way of thinking about it.
Yeah, 100%. That actually is, he's got a different persona now, but Giuliano.
Is that one of your guys?
He was the mayor of New York during 9/11, and then he was Trump's lawyer, wasn't he? So he's people's perception of him, and I don't know the detail, but he wrote a book actually about taking New York through 9/11, and one of the big things he talks about is effectively the huddle. He had all the emergency services and key council people in one room, one time, every morning. Tell me how many murders. Tell me how many fires. Tell me how many this. And he said that the biggest thing he recognised was very quickly a change in accountability. They didn't want to come in and report that they didn't hit the target. So they started solving things before having to come in to report them.
So what did you read a book on that?
That was years ago, yeah.
Right.
It was years ago.
Did that book change you in any way?
No, not really. That's the only thing I remember from that book.
Right.
And the Vern Harnish huddle thing is just reinforces that and puts that into a bit more sense. The example you gave there was just something I'd noticed afterwards that definitely happens.
Well, you got to verbalise it. I mean, that's where this system that you've got, it just helps people get the better out of themselves naturally.
Well, the senior leadership team, that is the huddle that I sit in. I don't chair it, by the way. We have a different chair every day. And that's because then I don't have to be there.
Yeah.
But they're often reporting on the three key things of their team, not necessarily the three key things they're doing.
Have they got 3 focus hours as well?
They'll have 3 focus hours. They'll be reporting on and they'll amalgamate their team of 5. These are the 3 most important things today, and they're the things that they'll share on the huddle because we want to know what the team's done that day. But the reason we ask that question is because we want to know if there's an issue with something, what's going to be the knock-on, and that does often lead to another question. Okay, someone else might ask, well, when's it going to be ready? Because I'm doing the next bit. I've got the next leg, so I need to know when I'm going to plan that in. So that we deal with that. Then it's the numbers, the daily numbers, and they'll differ from the weekly numbers and the monthlies for different teams. Down to on a daily basis, we'll be looking at down to how many emails we've got left that we haven't responded to. Down to that kind of detail. But we won't look at that on a monthly basis or weekly basis. And then we go into, okay, and what's happening today? What are the 3 things today?
By the way, what does your business exactly do? Primary education.
So we provide sport, physical activity, and childcare to schools, parents, children, ultimately, all over the country.
And you've grown that business through franchising. So what are some of the things that you've done in this 25 years which has really helped your franchises be successful?
We're the biggest. We're the market leader. We sit on committees with departments, governmental departments. So we help shape some of their questions they've got, and have certainly supported the introduction of certain funding streams that have been available.
Are funding streams constantly available or not?
They differ. So as an example, you've probably heard of the Holiday Activity Fund. Marcus Rashford did a big campaign. That actually, we did a bit with a particular supermarket a couple of 3 years ago, where they did something exactly the same as a campaign. So, how do we support the franchisees? That one of the advantages is they come to us, that supermarket. We delivered it all for them. It was their scheme. We were on it as a partner, but it was under their brand. And that kind of conversations with government then morphed into, not just because of that, but we did have conversations that saw that then change into a national fund.
Right.
We did a similar thing with, a funding stream in schools called the Sport Premium, which helps kids get active. And originally that wasn't available in holiday times. That became available in holiday times because some of the lobbying that we did with Jeremy Hunt, as it was at the time, in health service.
What about someone then, a business owner listening, that might be thinking about franchising the business, actually, to grow it even further?
Franchising their business.
Yeah, franchising their business. What kind of advice or comments?
So that's an interesting one as well, because I think running a business well, making this table, is one thing. Franchising it is completely different. You can do both. McDonald's do both.
Yeah. Because they've got some of their own McDonald's as corporately owned
absolutely.
McDonald's.
Yeah. I don't know what the split is now, but it used to be about 60-40.
They got about 100, I think, corporately owned, because I presented at a conference to the corporately owned ones.
Okay, right. Well,
yeah.
So they do it both. They do both, and lots of franchisors do. But I think the business model of being a franchisor is very different to saying copy what I'm doing here, because it's about, you become almost it's almost like a non-exec director. Actually, we're finding that a lot more.
Right.
We have we have various interactions with the franchises when we're talking, when we're getting information, business performance information, lots of early indicators. And we do a 3-month review with them all, a business review, and we find ourselves pretty much as being like a chair.
Do you do it every 3 months?
Yeah. What's this number? What's the? Let's look at the risks.
1-to-1 or in groups?
1-to-1. 1-to-1.
And you got a team of people that do that?
Yeah.
Interesting. So people would need to set up some kind of infrastructure of support like that, where you could guide them through.
Yeah, I mean, the marketing, we do all the marketing, which is brilliant. I love the marketing because it's completely visible. Everything's about, every penny spent is, you can see. The franchise support team that we have an operations team who are working on what's going to be happening in 3 years.
Fascinating stuff. I've got some quick questions for you here. Top 3 books that you've ever read on business growth?
The Robert Kiyosaki series.
All of them. So
Cash
Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant in particular. Even gave them to my kids. Audio book.
What age were your kids?
Well, one was probably about 11, one was about 13. We used to listen to it on the way to football.
Yeah.
Particularly the first one, because it's quite story based.
Rich Dad or Quadrant?
Rich Dad.
It's very story, isn't it?
So that's quite good. Some time ago now, but things like the 7 Habits.
Mr. Covey.
And he was at the Action Coach, his son, wasn't he?
He was,
last year. I found him fascinating. But a lot of the stuff now I tend to listen to tends to be more audio, tends to be Jim Rohn.
Oh, yeah. Motivation.
I find the guy completely hypnotic. I could listen to him for hours on end, and everything he says is right.
It's irrefutable.
He's so good. And I'm often sending that to my kids and our team, little clips, YouTube shorts of him doing a speech.
So accessible now as well, isn't it? On Spotify, on YouTube. All right, what's your favourite movie?
Oh, it's got to be boys stuff. Gladiator, Top Gun. Got to be. I was in Rome last week as well, and
Gladiator, amazing. So Top Gun, you seen the new one? Which is better, the old one or the new one? I mean, the new one's good.
The new one is good. It's much better than what I thought it would be.
It's never as good, is it? The new version.
I mean, the original one, we used to be able to recite the script. What I must have seen it 50 times. So
I've got a Top Gun T-shirt with me today.
Yeah, so I didn't think it would live up to that, but the second one was good. Yeah, it was good.
Favorite holiday destination?
Got to be the Maldives.
How many times have you been?
I've only been once. And the reason I say that is because, it's beautiful, but it's finite, isn't it? It's sinking, it's going underwater. And one of my kids actually said to me recently, I've got to go there because before it's all gone.
Yeah.
And 100%, that's what I've got to do. I've got to get the kids there.
Loads of listeners, including myself, thinking exactly the same now. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
When would you go back to or forward to?
Back.
To what?
I don't know. I think, I don't know. I'm just interested in it. I wouldn't want to interfere with it.
Well, once you've got a superpower, you've got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't want to interfere. And butterfly effect and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't want to change it. I just want to see it and experience it.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
How late?
1 o'clock, most nights. I think probably lots of going out to nightclubs and stuff when I was about 20, 21, probably ingrained it into myself. But Yeah, night owl. With kids, you have to be able to do both, though.
You do, yeah. If you could have one day in anyone else's life, past or present, who would you choose?
What a good question that is. It would have to. I don't know the answer to. I can't think of a person off the top of my head, but it would have to be somebody who. Somebody like an American president, who knows all the things that are going on, who's got that information, that level of data, that level of knowledge, and has to make calls on it. I think that'd be fascinating. Some of the stuff that a person in that kind of position would have to deal with and juggle, and how they do that would be phenomenal. So I'd like to experience it. I think I'd probably be not very good at it, but I'd like to have a go.
If I had to choose an American president, the one that's springing to mind is John F. Kennedy. Quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
When NASA is establishing, etc., etc. There you go. If you had to choose a president, who would you choose? Which one?
I knew you were going to ask that question,
I know.
didn't I? Do you know what?
You're allowed to swear.
You're allowed to swear. Yeah, well, I think it'd be a good one. Actually, would be Reagan, because he had a life before that, so he wasn't just a politician. But obviously, the Cold War, that's fairly instrumental. And actually, he was around at a time when lots of good things were happening.
I'm going to dare say this out loud, by the way. I'm going to really dare. I mean, I wonder what it'd be like to be Donald Trump, to experience that. I wonder what it would be like.
I would hate that kind of. I mean, look, we're talking about for a day.
Yeah.
I would hate that kind of intrusion, and I'd prefer just to get on with stuff and not have to do that and stand up in front of people and justify every single thing they do. I wouldn't like to be Donald Trump at all, but I think that position would be really fascinating.
Yeah. Really good. We've never had that answer before. Any business owner, business leader, personal development junkie listening to this, what's the first thing they should do after listening to this?
Have a look at Legom. Have a look at Vern Harnish, Running with Gazelles. We sent all of our franchisees the book before we did our last conference, and said, read that before you come, so that they were aware of what we wanted to help them to do. Because what I find about a lot of books is you can read a book and that's a great idea, but it can become a bit zigzaggy. This is the latest thing. I've just read this. Let's do this. I've done that before loads of times. Whereas the Vern Harnish thing is very much, this is how you go and do it, not why. This is how you implement those things and make things easier for yourself. And Legom's similar. That makes things easier for every business. We're seeing it with our franchises. So I would urge anybody who's in business to look at that, because it can be quite transformational.
Yeah, and the other thing that's springing to mind, I know you mentioned him earlier on, is Roger. I do want to mention Roger, because I know that he's really into accountability, isn't he? Do you get a lot of accountability from Roger?
We work with Roger. Roger's one of our directors now.
Right.
So I have to say, as the chief executive, yes, he's sitting there, on a monthly, quarterly basis, questioning me.
It's like that coaching figure in your business.
Yeah. I speak to Roger. We have a set meeting every week. We obviously have our board meetings as well. But from the position of leading a business can be quite lonely, because there's not really many people to talk to about some things. So having somebody like Roger, who is able to prod and poke, and get you perhaps thinking in a different way. That might be by asking a question. That might be saying, somebody I know, or this piece of resource, what do you think of this? Can be quite, can be impactful. It is impactful. And it's not always straight away either. He might ask a question that I answer, and then I go away thinking, I think he might be right on that. And I'll kind of bring myself around to it and then go back to him. So I think that kind of interrogation and third party eye is quite important.
You know what? I've got loads of notes here. Loved loads of things that you said. I think my favourite is not too much, not too little. And not that bit, not the principle of that. How you took that and applied the 3 hours. And interspersed them with play and collaboration and dinner time. We're all having dinner together. I think that 3 focus hours, how you put the principle of Legom into your business. Fantastic. That's been my favourite part. What's been yours?
Well, some of your questions are really, you've got me going to a couple of places that I didn't ever think about. Mentors and why they're mentors or why they've been influences. So that's been quite interesting. And a fairly uncomfortable bit was thinking about what some of the staff, would they say that was fairly uncomfortable. Because I'm not 100% sure that they'd be thinking what you said, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? I could sense that at the time, and I think you might be amazed. Actually, I think you might be pleasantly surprised by what they think once I watch this, because you're a great man. You got a great business. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.